Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 50th episode of the Sonic Talk podcast. This is actually take 2 for us because we did it originally on Friday, and now we're having to redo it because we had sound and technical problems. It just bad stuff just happens that way. And with me tonight is Chris, GX again. Say hi, GX.
Technical supervisor, GX or Chris. Setting up all of this for anybody who's watching in video format.
Well, since I don't have an audio feed yet, they'll probably all be watching it in video format. And down below me here is Alex Peel, who's camera shy.
Yeah, hey everyone.
All right, and as you can tell, we got a special kind of episode because this one we got a brand new graphic overlay for the series for the first time.
Big fancy everything with all of the work that's involved in putting something like that together. Appreciate it, you people.
I appreciate it. I think it looks awesome. And we have a little section right over here for graphic overlays for when we're on certain subjects. And speaking of certain subjects, let's get this show started. We're talking about what we've been playing recently. Does anybody want to go first, or should I go ahead?
Go ahead, Jason.
All right. I've played several different games, but like Dragon Ball Fighters and Dragon Quest Builders, but I'm going to focus on 2 right now. Monster Hunter World for the PlayStation 4. It's also available for Xbox One. I'm a big fan of the Monster Hunter series. I've been so since about Monster Hunter 3 or 3 Ultimate. I think my first one was on the Wii. When my mom first got out of hospital for her leg surgery, I had to take leave of absence. I was off work for like 3 months, and that was my main game for that time, and I just got addicted pretty heavily. It was, back in that day, very, very grindy. It's hard to learn how to exactly to get there, and it's just a game where, like, it's riding a bike where you just have to keep going at it to really understand. And once you understand Monster Hunter and can get into it, it's a great series. But thankfully, this time around, it has been streamlined for people who are just jumping in. This is absolutely the best one to start with. I mean, you start up with a 20-minute story that is a little bit interactive here and there, but then you start off immediately hunting monsters. No picking up honey, no trying out herbs and crafting them. You could do that later. Right now, they just want you to get you out in the field, get you right into the action. So that's a nice, little thing.
The more important thing that I've been hearing about it is that they actually go into greater detail about what you do in the game through the use of more text explanations and video explanations.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot more voice acting, good or bad. The voice acting isn't exactly that great, and none of the lips match up when they talk, which is a bit of a problem. This is a series I feel really actually doesn't need voice acting. If they just cut it off, it would probably be fine the way it is. But that said, it's nice that they've localized it to this extent. I really like that.
I think this game kind of really says, this seems like the one that they're really trying to make the big pitch to Western audiences, with it being PS4 focused and having that voice acting kind of does matter to an American audience to a point. Otherwise, they're probably just going to appeal to the people who are already in Camp Monster Hunter.
That's kind of true, yeah. I mean, examples of them cutting off some of the grinding is that your whetstones are now infinite. This is something that was really easy to collect in Monster Hunter, and you collected so much of it, was never really a limited resource to begin with. So just having it as infinite whetstone is a bonus. Especially also infinite pickaxe now. Before you had like a stone and an iron and a silver, I think, pickaxe of different lengths, and they'd eventually, as you were mining, they'd eventually just break and you'd have to make a new one or get one that was stronger. And now it's just one type and it's infinite.
So a lot of like little quality of life changes.
Yeah, very much so. Plants are really easy to just quickly grab up if you need like certain herbs or you want certain seeds like nullberries or what have you. Your guy's not doing an animation or he's digging through the ground or anything. He's actually just running, snatching it up, and keeps running towards the monster you're trying to fight. There's a much stronger focus on hunting for the monsters, and mainly so he can craft the weapons and armor out of them. So there is some more grindy stuff if you want it. You got like a herpetologist where you can plant fertilizer, and if you want like a certain plant, if you want a lot of that plant, you could take it over to him, and within a few days he'll have a lot of extras for you. But it's all optional, and it doesn't get in the way of the story-based part of the game. So that's a real plus there. There's also no loading during hunts. Now when you go out to a hunt and to a great big land, it's all there. There's no cutting it off in sections and then now loading, which is a big problem since the very beginning of the series. So it's nice not to have the land cut off into segments. It's also a lot easier to grind for the armor. In the previous games, you'd face the same monster. If you wanted that monster's armor, you'd have to fight him like 10 or 15 times almost just to get one certain little piece of his tail. That was real hard to get, but now you have a thing called investigations, which is added to your quests now if you want to do investigations. And if you do those, you'll be rewarded with a lot more of that monster's parts than if you're just going after hunting him alone, which is a real nice plus. But it actually adds quite a bit of challenge. I was doing an Anjanath, and I forget the name of the monster, but it's electrical, and it's kind of like a silver fox, kind of like the silver fox in the Star Wars Last Jedi, kind of like that. And you had to kill off both of these monsters in a half hour, which is really, really challenging to do. And I managed to do that and got almost a full armor set off of that Anjanath just from doing that. And also, of course, since it's the first PS4, Xbox One Monster Hunter, the graphics have made a giant, giant leap from the PS2 quality graphics you got off of the 3DS versions, so to speak. And so it's a much nicer looking game than any of the other series. And it also makes your palicos, your little cat sidekicks who help you out a lot. They are just adorable looking this time around, and they're much more expressive in their animations, especially when you're about to order a meal to boost your stats, and they go through this whole cooking animation, which is really funny, really cute.
Yeah, real cats interacting with them on television screens has practically become a meme.
Yeah. Mine's based off of my own actual cat, Sabrina, because the cat I was able to make look identical to her, so that was kind of nice.
Now, I got just one question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in Monster Hunter world for people who've never liked Monster Hunter?
Well, a lot of people who don't like Monster Hunter are the people who didn't get it the first time around and had a really hard time with it. And I'd say at least try a rental on Redbox. If it's still not your thing, then it's never going to be your thing. So that's the best thing I could say about that. And outside of that, like I said, I'm just really enjoying it. It's a lot less grindy. There's nothing much I have to complain about, really, on that end.
It is a Monster Hunter game. It is just a slightly better Monster Hunter game than it has been in the past, right? I'm going to mute this so that the actual other people can't hear any of this. So, Jason, you are currently muted as well, and I get to hear a waking nightmare in my ears. Alex, get on your freaking iPhone on Discord, and we're going to add you that way. Because, oh my god. I thought we had to as well, but you have no computer skills. And it's your stuff. So, I apologize to the people, anybody who's watching, we're suffering technical issues, but how about while we wait for Alex, I'm going to turn you back on, and you can tell us a bit about Night in the Woods, okay, Jason?
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and... All right, the second game I've been playing is Night in the Woods on Nintendo Switch. It's a indie title that came out last year on PS4 and PC. I don't know if it came out on Xbox One or not. I'm not sure on that one. This version of the game does come with all the extras, including a full art gallery, depending on how far and how much you've seen of the game. It also comes with their original Kickstarter rewards, like Longest Night, which is a short mini game about connecting stars for constellations, and a game called Lost Constellations, which is basically the same graphics and such as Night in the Woods, sorry. But this one is more of a puzzle adventure, and it's surprisingly a pretty meaty bonus. It's like about 2 hours long, 90 minutes to 2 hours long to get through. And it offers more of a challenge than the main game does. The main game, though, is still really good. It's story-based. You're playing as May Borowski, I think is her last name, and she's coming back from college to her small town in Possum Springs, and it's from a Rust Belt state, so it's a town that had a former mining facility that's been long gone, and the economics on the town are just stagnant. They're just going downhill. And so it's kind of a depressing little area. It's really more of a coming-of-age story and what's happening to this belt, but it's also got a kind of a horror murder mystery thing going on deep in the background that eventually makes its way forwards towards the end of the game. Like, there's parts where May's having nightmares that are actually connected to the main backdrop of the story, but your main part of the story is you interacting with people in your town and hearing their stories and what's going on with them. And it's a really nice game. Like I said, there's no real challenge to it. The problem is you have you have three friends altogether. Well, I guess four. There's Germ the bird, but you don't really do much with him. There's your two main friends, Greg and B, and you go in between them almost day by day, depending on which one you want to hang out with. Greg's got a boyfriend named Angus, but you don't really interact with him too much in it. A little more than Greg, but you don't really have a side stuff with them. But like I said, if you want, you really should play through it twice because.
But give us a broad look. Like what am I doing in this game? Like
it's labeled as a 2D platformer, but that's very basic. I mean, the graphics are basically like a two-dimensional children's book. You can see a little scene of it right down over there. And basically, you're going through and just hanging out with the two of your friends during the day, but you also are talking to other people in that town and seeing what they want or what they need. Like I said, I sped through it a little too fast on my first playthrough. I was mainly hanging out with Bay the crocodile, and I missed a complete area where you can go to this church and talk to the pastor, and we see the council of the town talking to this homeless man, deciding whether he wants to stay or not. I completely missed that my first time through. And it's, like I said, it's basically a 2D adventure mystery game with some mini games, like your friends are in a band and there's some musical mini games in there. I just finished an area with Greg in the woods where you're first having Greg and May are a little bit adventurous, a little bit nuts in there, having a little knife fight with each other in the woods and stabbing each other's hands. And then you're doing a little hunting game where they got a little fake owl deer hybrid thing set up, and you're trying to shoot your crossbow at it.
So what is as an adventure game, like, give me an idea of what like the tone would be, what the appeal would be compared to some of the more traditional like point and click style adventure games.
Well, this one, it's more about her day-to-day life and her interactions with both her parents and the people in the town. Like I said, it's more of a coming-of-age story. It's not really as interactive as you'd expect from this kind of thing, outside of the mini games and such. But going through the story and choosing how you interact with the characters is the most important part. It's hard to say exactly because I mean I played like Walking Dead and that's a very different kind of game than this.
But like there, you would go through events day to day, and a lot of this is secondhand. But basically, in a normal day, you would decide which of your friends you would want to hang out with, and from there, you kind of learn to develop what are these different characters. You start to learn a little bit about May's past.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to these other people in her life having to learn to grow up, whereas May, despite her getting out of town and going to college, having to deal with the fact that she hasn't really grown up, whereas other people have.
She's an immature one. Well, Greg is probably more immature than her. He works at the Snack Falcon and lets one of his friends shoplift from there, and then he's constantly ditching the place to go have fun with May, where her friend B, her mother died of cancer, and she's having to work at this at her dad's hardware store full time, pretty much all day, and she has this heavy responsibility, and she kind of doesn't like May that much at the beginning because May just quit, and B is someone who wanted to go to college really, really bad. It was sort of like her dream, and to see that May just up and left, it really pisses her off. But as you go through the game, you find out exactly why she left. That she's having this kind of, well, without spoiling too much, a little bit of a mental health issue. But that's the one problem I have with the game is just exactly how they handled that mental health issue. I'm not sure if it's left open to debate whether it's her or this other thing.
Yeah.
Without really getting into it. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody else. But I mean, if you like like cartoonish characters, if you like an interesting 2D adventure that's very untraditional, then I'd recommend this quite a bit. I've been trying to recommend it to my niece because May reminds me a lot of my niece right now. And so, I'd seriously recommend this one. Definitely give it a try if you get the chance.
Yeah, my sister has played it. I have it loaded right now on my Switch, and it's just a matter of actually getting to it. But part of me is kind of there's a little bit of anxiety there because from what I hear, it kind of hits a bit close to home for me. Somewhat in a literal sense, because this is a developer that came from Pennsylvania, and Western Pennsylvania is pretty historic for losing a lot of its industry.
Yeah, and you see that a lot in the background. Like they show paintings of the union workers, heading out and stuff, and soldiers, and it's all the entire town is kind of trapped in the past and just focused on what used to be, and so it's very stagnant. They've just got like internet this year. That's how far back they are.
Wow. I mean, like internet, like broadband internet?
Well, like broadband and Wi-Fi.
Oh,
like
right.
They have like horrible cell reception over there because they have no cell towers and everything.
Where my parents
the town is kind of trapped in time, basically.
Where my parents live,
it's a really hard game to describe. I'm sorry to say.
So, Alex, what do you got for us?
Well, I got only the freshest of games. These are games I'm sure we've all played, but I've just been digging into them lately. There's one game I've been playing. It's like this cross between Pac-Man and a puzzle game I'm sure you've all heard of called Qix, Qix, where you play this little character who runs around a maze. and he has to he has to like run around sections of the maze in order to fill it in, and if he runs over the same area twice, it'll okay.
So for clarification, you're playing this game on the Atari 5200.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know we were doing it in this order. Okay, well, if we're starting with the Atari 5200, then
It doesn't matter. Fine, whatever.
Anyway, okay, so
GX had an image for the Atari 2200.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
know, but okay, so
Next week I'm gonna make an even worse artist's interpretation for you, right?
Next
no.
month, let's face it.
So the Atari 5200. So I've been playing games on a bunch of old fugly consoles that most people have never heard of, TurboGrafx aside. The first of them, I guess, is the Atari 5200, which is this really old, gigantic, awful video game console Atari released back in 1982. The first successor to their first system, the 2600. And this thing is like renowned for having an awful controller, and it is an awful controller. It's got this gigantic analog joystick that doesn't self-center. Like, you know how the N64 analog stick is after a couple years of use, where it doesn't center right anymore? That's how the Atari 5200 joystick is all the time. Even when it's been rebuilt, and on top of that, all of the buttons are made out of this rubber. There's no clicky plastic on it. It's all this soft rubber that if you use your fingernails on the buttons at all, eventually you're going to destroy the buttons.
When I think of controller design, the company I want to, or the console I want to take all my lessons from, is the Intellivision.
The Intellivision is better than this. Like, it's not great. But it's better.
That sounds bad, because I hate the Intellivision. I'm somebody who came from that era, who lived during that time when I was a little kid, and I hated Intellivision.
This has one thing over the original Intellivision. Well, I guess arguably two things, and that is the controllers can be removed from the console, which you couldn't do with the first Intellivision. And on top of that, it has 4 controller ports.
And it's backwards compatible.
So, in a way, it's a really shitty Nintendo 64 from 1982. And it's not backwards compatible. You're thinking of the 7800.
Maybe I must be thinking of
But, okay, but yeah, so like, and these controllers, on top of that, they are known for falling apart after a couple of months, unless you get this special Rev 9 golden circuit board. So I recently got an Atari 5200 with a completely rebuilt controller and a bunch of games. Among them, of course, I have a Sega game, because I have to have a Sega game for my console.
Sega.
It's one of the, just because a controller is shit doesn't mean that there aren't some games that work okay with it. They're mostly space games and games that benefit from analog controls. And one of those games is a little game called Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator, which is a weird game for its era, because it's basically a dual screen game. So you got 2 screens, not counting the HUD, which shows your shields and energy and stuff. The first screen has your little Enterprise flying around in a top-down environment, and it gives you an overall area. It gives you an overall idea of the locations of enemies and where you have to fly. And the bottom screen is kind of like Star Fox Zero, where basically it gives you a first-person perspective to allow you to aim more precisely at the Klingon ships. They're Klingon ships. There are those, I forget what they're called. Those things those little
Falcons, I think they're called.
No, the Falcons are the good guys.
No, Falcon. The Klingon, the bird.
The Romulans. And no, I'm talking about the guys who fly around those little red ships from the original series.
I think you mean Romulans, yeah.
No, I don't mean Romulans.
Okay,
I do. Anyway, I know Chris. But anyway, so you're flying around, you're blowing them up, and you're trying to protect space stations. And It's a surprisingly engaging arcade game and a surprisingly engaging space simulator for its era. The controls are a little awkward because you're essentially trying to control both from a top-down perspective and a first-person perspective at the same time, but it works. It works surprisingly well once you get used to it, and it's a surprising amount of fun.
I gotta ask, what exactly is strategic about it? It seems like it's
nothing.
Flying around shooting ships.
It's basically just the bullshit name. There's nothing really strategic about it. You fly around, you kill some Klingons, you move on.
So Jason, the thing you have to understand about that era is that nothing surrounding the game actually matters to the game. Least of all, the name and the box art. Like,
for the record,
that's one thing I loved about the 2600 is the box art had nothing to do with the game, but it was gorgeous. The Klingon ships look like
Klingon ships. The Enterprise looks like the Enterprise. But beyond that, there's no strategy. So, if you ever happen to buy a 5200 for whatever goddamn reason, this ain't a bad game to get for it.
I think I did play this game back in the day.
Now,
I'm looking at it.
So the next game is Pepper 2, which I was trying to talk about earlier, for the Colecovision. The Colecovision is a far better console with a marginally better controller. It has kind of the same numerical pad, but its controlling stick is smaller and it's digital and self-centers, so that's great. And the game I played for it was Pepper 2, which is like this cross between Pac-Man and this game called Kicks, which you've probably never heard of, where you're running around a maze. There are enemies in it that can kill you, but they don't actually really chase you around. Instead, they just move around at random, which in a way actually makes them more dangerous dangerous in the maze. But and you basically have one goal: to fill in every single section of the maze. And to do that, you move around the whole section, and you do a complete shape, and then it fills in. And you do that until the whole maze is filled in, and there are like power-ups that you can get that allow you to temporarily eat the monsters, just like Pac-Man.
Yeah, it's a Pac-Man-like game.
But
in that area, there were a lot of
like back in the day, basically all Jason's people played were Pac-Man and like Space Invaders. That's all Jason played back then.
All we did was play Pac-Man and Pac-Man clothes. That show was just Pac-Man all day and all night.
But like out of the Pac-Man games and Pac-Man type games like Casey Munchkin and Pac-Man, this is the only one I've really found addicting and engaging, because there are all these neat little twists. Like in addition to having to fill in areas instead of just collecting pellets, there are 4 interconnected mazes. So like when you leave one maze, you don't just pop out on the other side. You'll pop out in another maze. And so it's just really addicting. And it's such a shame that it's not really relevant these days. Because I would totally play this on like my 3DS or Switch or something if I had the opportunity.
So some things I find it worth noting. First off, if you look at the cover of this game and just do a quick Google search, it's called Pepper 2. The main character on the box art looks concerningly like Pac-Man if he were half dragon.
Honestly, I only own the cartridge, so I have no idea what the character looks like on the box art.
The other aspect that I think is worth noting is it was published by CBS Electronics. That is CBS, the television station.
Back then, everyone had a video game sector. Quaker Oaks, they had a video game developer. Everyone did, and so, but of course, then like the year after this came out, the video game market crashed and all the stuff got shut down. But like the industry was just vibrant and also full of shit back then. Like there were even porn games like Custer's Last Stand.
We don't need to get into the market of Atari 2600 porn games. That's outside of the scope.
Yeah, as far as CBS ColecoVision console, that was the thing back in the day where a big company would sponsor your system at a certain area. Like There was the Atari 2600, but there was also Sears video game computer system, which is basically this exact same computer system with a different name.
Yeah, that's because Sears was the primary retailer for Atari. Like,
Yeah.
so like some of them were just branded with the Sears name. In any case, the final trilogy of games I wanted to briefly discuss here was the Soldier series for the TurboGrafx. I recently got my Turbo Duo back from repair, and I have finally had a chance to dig into these games, and I think I have finally fallen in love with the shmup genre. And the thing I love about these games is that they're like they're not just Twitch action games, although that is critical to master if you want to do well. But there's also like a strategic element to it, because there are a set number of weapons that will come down from the screen, and collecting certain weapons and if you manage to like collect two of the same kind of weapon at the same time, it powers up your weapon. And then once you collect a new weapon, you have a new powered up weapon. And so you have to know when to, and in order to, you can get rid of a weapon that you've just received by activating its bomb function. And so you basically have to sort of figure out when's a good time to use the bomb, when's a good time to collect a power up, and when you need to just let something pass by so that you can power up your weapons later. And it just leads to a really engaging action experience that I've never really gotten from a lot of the other shmups I've played, aside from Ikaruga, which I really enjoyed, but it's just way more difficult than this game. This game is the Soldier series is accessible. Like, you don't have to be an insane shmup player in order to get pretty far into these games. And now, like, there is now my favorite regular entry in the Soldier series is the Soldier Blade, which was the final entry. But another interesting entry in the Soldier series is Star Parodius, which is like, basically, it's one of the very few comedy games from the early 90s. It's like it's just like a parody and a homage to everything about the TurboGrafx and its developers. Because
it's like a big Hudson, a big colorful, crazy Hudson send off in the form of a
in the form of a
shoot 'em up, yeah.
And like, it's really cute, really colorful. Like, the most amazing thing about these games is that despite the fact that the Genesis has serious power advantage over this thing, some of its games look very comparable to like mid-generation Genesis titles. And Star Parodius is one of the best looking games on the system as far as I'm concerned, because they're just these big, colorful sprites. And you can play all these. You can pick between these three cute little characters, like the ship from the Star Soldier series, or the or like there's like a PC engine that collects cue cards for power ups and can shoot CDs. And there's a Bomberman who was kind of like, along with Bonk, one of the main mascots of the console. And he just flies around shooting bombs at everybody. And the levels are funny. There's one level that's like a theme park of Japan, full of like these little cartoon ninjas that come at you, and these little those little toad things. I forget what they're called. The turtle things, kappas.
Koopas?
No, kappas. But it's just a really fun, entertaining series. As I understand it, it's on the WiiWare, the Wii Shop at the moment.
It is on the original Wii eShop, whatever the Wii Shop channel. Yes. I will tell you, if this sounds appealing to you in any way, get on it now, because once the Nintendo Wii eShop channel goes down, it will currently not be available, not even on the Wii U. So
yeah, like I think the deadline to put new credit into the shop was like March 26th, and like next year they're going to just completely take the shop down.
Right. So if you want those Hudson games, ones that haven't been re-released to Wii U yet, get them now.
And because, like, the Turbo Duo, that's like the cheapest way to enjoy PC Engine games and TurboGrafx games. And this thing, like, you'll be lucky to find it below $300, and the games are even more expensive. The only reason why I'm even really talking about these games is because I have a Turbo EverDrive flash card for my TurboGrafx, and I've burned a bunch of Turbo Duo CD games. Because like this would be a really expensive console to play games for otherwise, especially the games I mentioned. In any case, that's all I have to say about my games. Chris, you have anything to say?
As a matter of fact, I do. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but I was able to actually find a Super Nintendo Classic.
Oh, nice.
My rules for actually getting one were, I'm not going to make an effort to do so. If I find one, great, I'll buy it, I'll play it, and I happened to stumble into one whenever I was doing a Best Buy shopping trip, so they might be slightly more out there in the wild now for those of you who are still looking for one. And if not, I mean, at this point, they're now down to $20 from scalpers over list price. So take that as you will.
I was lucky enough to get mine from a Walmart.
But
it's fun.
I played a little bit. The emulation on it seems pretty solid on the games that I've tried. I've really only tried it out with Mario World and Mega Man X, and had some good times with that, but nothing really worth discussing beyond that.
No Star Fox 2 yet, huh?
Not yet. I got time. I also have other games I want to play. I got Rayman Legends for Switch, and I'm replaying through that a bit, and it's grand fun.
Nice.
But the main thing that I have to talk about is Sega Hard Girls.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
boy.
So yeah, I'm going to try to condense my thoughts into something a little bit more direct, since the last time we made an attempt at recording this episode, I, on an anime sale, because I have a problem, and I have to own every Sonic cartoon, I bought, to pronounce this as accurately as possible.
It was in one episode.
Technically two, but whatever. Okay. High School with 3 O's, Sega Hard Girls, the complete TV series, which
the best anime ever made.
Sure, you are welcome to think that in your demented little mind. So, this is based off of a light novel series, which is effectively publishing manner in Japan. It's like, I would say close to the style of like a paperback publishing type thing, where they would have just it be a novel and then have like manga artists come in and just draw some illustrations for it for certain scenes and whatever. In 2014, it was adapted into an anime. The premise of the whole thing is you have goddesses, which are the anthropomorphized versions of old Sega consoles, from the SG-1000 all the way through the Dreamcast and everything in between. This particular anime series focuses on the exploits of Mega Drive, Saturn, and Dreamcast, who are anthropomorphized as teenage girls who have entered this Sega high school type thing, except they're really the only students you ever see, and they exist in like a single room or something. That is the only context in which you have ever seen them.
The whole show takes place in a room?
So,
in a classroom, but they go out and go...
Yeah, but their classroom is weird and stupid. It's like, you have this mobile spinning overhead of Sonic and a Chow, and then they have this room full of monitors where they can do weird stuff. But basically the premise is a rabbit who is the mascot of the SG-1000, I believe it was, who is voiced by Yuji Naka, because this is the type of level we're working at, tasks them with earning 100 coins in order to graduate and do whatever it means whenever a console graduates. They do so by completing various challenges in games. The challenges being, hey, defeat 100 opponents in a row playing the arcade version of Virtua Fighter. The Virtua Fighter 2, in other words, the super polygonal one that you saw on the Sega Saturn and in arcades. Do things like, oh, hey, here's how Puyo works. Find a bunch of other things that you could do with Puyos and make me a new game. Here's this Sega mobile game where it's kind of like a turn-based strategy RPG. Get through and earn what I'm guessing is the for-pay currency by playing the game, and we'll give you so many points for whatever. There are aspects of this that I'm kind of okay with, that I actually literally enjoy. This game gets really weird with its deep cuts. Do you want to watch these 3 anime girls in a arcade fighting ring of Virtua Fighter 2 fighting beetles from Sega's arcade trading card-based beetle fighting game and defeat them by doing weird
I think it showed up in
Yakuza
things. Once.
Yeah, it did show up in Yakuza, although in the Yakuza version, they replaced all the beetles with, here's sexy girls dressed as beetles because it's Yakuza. What are you going to do? They're going to subvert sexuality in weird ways.
It annoys me. I can't remember the name of that game you're talking about.
I heard it once. Like, it gets bizarre, and the more bizarre and nuanced it gets are where the actual entertaining jokes are. If you are a bizarrely in-depth Sega fan, at least in the Americas. If you're in Japan, you probably have seen more of these games. That said, the 3 main characters, Mega Drive, Saturn, and Dreamcast, are really bad anime tropes that you've seen a million times, and they're not even good versions of them.
Sega Saturn can't be bad. It has to be good.
Mega Drive is the bog standard. Here is the very matter-of-fact anime girl who has no sense of tact and will tell you how it is. And you want to find this thing? Let me look it up in my book and show you. Saturn is just the bog straight standard straight man type character who's kind of self-conscious about herself in ways that are exploited by the other two. And Dreamcast is just kind of the silly, goofy airhead who wants to be social with everybody. And they make jokes here and there about that kind of thing. Mega Drive occasionally complains, I don't have as much memory as you guys. Dreamcast occasionally tries to connect to the internet through dial-up because that kind of stuff. But the problem is, any of the actual communication that they have with each other, the dialogue is just bland and not entertaining in such a way. They commit a almost full episode of these tiny 15-minute episodes of them discussing, oh, Saturn, what are you thinking about? Oh, I am thinking about the type of pet that I would want to get. What types of pets could I get? Mega Drive comes in and says, oh, well, let me look up through my book of Sega Genesis games that I seem to have. Oh, would you want the elephant from Space Harrier 2? Oh, I don't know. I think there's American laws in place that would not let me own something like that. Oh, what if you got the wolf from Shinobi? It's just, the problem I have with it is I don't fundamentally understand who this is supposed to be for. On one hand,
it's supposed to be for me.
On one hand, you have these really bizarrely obscure Sega references. But any of the humor in it is just so frustratingly immature and juvenile and stupid that I don't see the connection. Like, it seems like, would this be from adults? It seems like it would be for, like, teens that have no taste at all, or would absolutely love to have their Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, Saturn waifu, which is absolutely how these characters are designed. But it's also so centered around things that were released and died before they were born. So
really, sorry, go on.
I don't get who this is supposed to be for.
Really, this just sounds like an attempt at come on, damn it. Okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just go on.
Like I said, if it's a nostalgia play, it's a nostalgia play for people who ideally should probably be too old for the type of stories they're trying to tell. If it's playing to young people who want to have their pretend video game waifu, then it seems like all the references that they're trying to make are too old for that type of audience. Unless they are really trying to capture people who are playing the Sega mobile games and are playing the Mecha arcade game, or maybe are familiar with Sonic. But the biggest issue I have with this, more than anything else, is that it's painfully, incredibly cheap looking in ways that just frustrate me to no end. The Sega console, the Hard Girls in question are all HD models that are rendered to visually sort of look like their counterparts. In half of the show, they're all chibi-fied. When they go into the games, they become these big, tall girl characters. And the issue is, when they go into the games, it becomes kind of like machinima. They use the actual graphics of the game, which means if they're in Virtua Fighter 2, they're against these super polygonal characters that have very little detail to them. If they're in Space Channel 5, it's using the Dreamcast models. If they are in the world of Sonic, they are up against a character model of Sonic, which is clearly from like Generations or a very new game, that actually looks better than the Sega Hard Girls character model, which is the problem.
I can't believe this aired on actual Japanese television.
There is no reason why it should have aired on Japanese television.
To go back to what I was trying to say before, this sounds like an attempt to just kind of remind everyone of the Sega brand gone wrong. Like, here's Sega, here's what it is. We constructed a whole anime to tell you who we are, and it's this low budget
failed miserably
crap with bad jokes.
I mean, people apparently.
It looks like something that should have been an OVA, not something that should have been on TV for 6 or whatever weeks.
Well, the thing is,
screw OVA. Sorry.
Beyond that, there are parts of it where the visual aesthetic is just the Hard Girl characters superimposed over videos of the actual Sega games being played, which is really bad. I have an image up on the video feed that is the Sega Hard Girl characters rendered in HD on top of video of Space Channel 5, where the Space Channel 5 video is super jaggy because it's in standard definition from an actual Saturn, which isn't consistent because there are also scenes in that episode where Ulala and the other background characters are also rendered in HD.
See,
I don't understand why they go from SD to HD and then just put the Sega Hard Girl characters in HD on top of it. It just feels lazy and cheap.
See, like even OVAs are never this cheap. Like this is more like some sort of free web series that should have aired on, like, I don't know, some Japanese service we've never heard of, or maybe YouTube. Like, I can't believe this is on TV. This is getting a Blu-ray release. It's being released over here on Blu-ray.
I mean,
I'm gonna buy it probably.
Welcome to my damn world. So it's not funny. It has moments of funniness, but broadly speaking, it's just bad writing. It's just bad writing for a juvenile audience who, I don't know, I guess there's maybe a sect of otaku that would really love something like this, but I can't imagine that they look at it and think, man, this is the height of good writing for comedy. And I don't know, it feels like it's reaching for something that is completely unearned, and I don't fundamentally understand any of the strategy that's associated with it, except for what Jason said. It's like, maybe it's just an exercise in maintaining the Sega brand. It's a bad exercise, but maybe it is an exercise.
This seems like such a missed opportunity, too, because I don't know, like, I don't know how you could do this, how you could have done this concept well. Just the general idea of a Sega-centric comedy. But god damn it, I wish they had actually done this well, because as a Sega fan, I would just find it really cool.
I mean, Sega have actually done this good Sega-centric comedies, or at least have been privy to them. If you take a look at the Project Cross Zone, that's all about weird, bizarre, funny crossovers. That is authentically weird and funny. They did the Sega Gaga game series, or game.
One game.
That is about...
Never got translated.
That is the weird Sega management game. Do you want to try to run Sega? Hopefully you can do it better than we can. I don't know. I don't recommend it, but if you feel so inclined, it's on Crunchyroll. Experience my nightmare.
You can watch it for free on Crunchyroll, right? You guys have to sit through some ads?
Probably. I don't...
That's how I watched it when I first saw it.
So yeah. Take a look. Watch the whole thing.
Wait for them to get to the Sonic part.
Don't take a look and watch the whole thing. But
I dare all of you.
But if you want enough rope to hang yourself, here it is.
All right, I think it's time to start talking about Sonic on our Sonic Talk podcast.
No, why would we want to talk about that blue hedgehog?
And first up is, in case you haven't seen on the Diamond Select, the previews cover has, for the first time, Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's because they finally have shown for April the solicitations for Sonic numbers 1 through 4. They're going to have four issues, one issue a week.
For clarification, you mean IDW. Diamond Select is an updated story
Diamond
about
Select
toys.
is just sorry. Diamond Select is just showing the cover, but IDW's is who now got the Sonic rights from Archie, because Archie let him slide, is doing the number 1 starting from beginning of April all the way to the end. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 per week. And they've shown a little bit of the cover art. It's looking really good. And the big thing out of this is, I guess, is a new character called Tangled, created by Tyson Hess. And it's a female lemur, a ring-tailed lemur with a giant tail that's prehensile, and it could be used almost like a whip or
an extra hand.
Kind of a fist at the end. Yeah, like an extra hand and arm.
I know in one piece of art she was like shaking Sonic's hand with her tail.
Yeah, I mean, there has been, when she was first announced this word, my Twitter feed blew up for 2 to 3 days of nothing but Sonic fan art, and I don't even follow that many Sonic creatives. As far as I follow Tracy Yardley and Ian Flynn and like 2 or 3 others, including Tyson Hess, but man, that was just Tangle art everywhere for those days. Yeah, so that looks like it's going to be a big thing. They did just announce issue 5, which will be the first issue that actually has Dr. Eggman in it. So
and it's a part one.
The first 4 issues that don't have a Dr. Eggman and what's going on in there.
Yeah, the first 4 issues are all standalone. They've got their own villains. And it looks like issue 5 is going to be the first multi-parter, The Fate of Dr. Eggman.
I know that there's been a lot of interviews as of late, but it does sound like the concept of Mobius is not part of this at all. It also sounds like they're kind of focused on, let's have the first year be a big arc.
It seems to be. Yeah. Seems to be more focused on the games as well. That's something that's been said a lot in the interviews, that they're wanting to make an adaptation as the way the game universe is currently.
Which is what the late Archie comics actually started to really push through. It's just that was always built on top of the existing structure of the characters and world that they've developed over time.
Yeah, so we saw the Freedom Fighters and the stuff. I'm going to miss them.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that there hasn't been any real outrage about these first 4 issues as far as Sally and the Freedom Fighters go, because I know there's a hardcore fan base for them, but
I'm pretty sure
they're all kind of excited about it. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably be around sometime in the future.
I'm pretty sure we've all had enough time to get used to them being gone at this point. Yeah. It's been a slow burn.
For anybody who is really concerned about that, I think there is a really real thing to keep in mind, that this, because of the change in company, Archie still owns certain aspects of those older comics. There is going to be a point in which we just kind of have to accept that this can't be the continuation of Archie that we may necessarily want.
No.
Because of circumstance.
This is a full-on reboot.
Hopefully we can all at least appreciate that it has a lot of the same talent behind the Archie comics. So even if it doesn't have the same world and stories, it's still going to most likely have a lot of the same quality behind it.
Thank God. Now, we did talk about how there's going to be like a whole arc over the first year, but a thing to note is that Ian Flynn has also said that there's going to be a big reveal sometime in the first year, and it's going to be a major obscure villain from Sonic's past. And apparently it's something that we're going to be able to guess pretty early on, because he's going to start laying down hints. But casual fans will apparently be excited for it.
I'm sure he'll be, because he's had Wendy Witchcraft in the comic book line, so I don't know how obscure he can get as far as villains go.
Yeah, when I first heard that, I thought maybe something like Wendy Witchcraft, until I realized she'd already been in Archie. So I don't know.
That popped right there.
I don't know what he's got planned, which I guess is a good thing. We'll find out.
Now, I was just saying, as far as we were saying about the Diamond previews, Diamond Select is going to start producing different Sonic toys in the near future, which is going to be interesting. They've showed 2 of the vinyl statues. I don't know what the price is. They kind of remind me of the those other statues. Oh my God, I can't remember the name.
The mini makes, or the mini
no. The other company that makes Sonic statues. Oh. It's on the tip of my tongue.
First 4 figures.
First 4 figures, yeah. They're kind of like that. I don't think they're going to be quite as detailed, though, but they look interesting.
Hey, as long as they're actually affordable by a human with an actual budget.
There's also the Mini-Mates, and oh my God, those things.
Yeah, they sell a lot of those. Lego. I actually have a Chun-Li and M. Bison of them, because it seemed like a stupid thing for me to own. But yeah, they look like waking nightmares.
I don't know why you would take curvy characters and put them into something like this. But then again, I don't know. People also seem to love those hideous Funko Pops.
Because I got this is their answer
Pop right here. And this looks cute and okay compared to like Cream the Rabbit, who looks so swole right now. She looks like she's been working out for 2 or 3 years.
This is the response to people who complained about how Knuckles looked in Sonic Boom.
So you're that I don't think anybody has everybody seen that fan animation where Cream got the real Arnold Schwarzenegger voice to her.
I have no clue what you're talking about. I really don't.
The only fan animation I've seen lately is that the Vector's Knickers thing, which we probably shouldn't talk about.
That reminds me of that Cream now because she just looks so ridiculously bulky.
That's the extent you'll get of it.
You know, we did forget something in regards to the comics. The two bad guys they just revealed.
Rough
and Tumble.
You helped reveal.
Yeah, I wrote the article.
It's Rough and Tumble, I believe is their name.
A pair of skunks. One really muscular, swole skunk, and one skunk that looks like he's gonna rip your face off.
They vaguely remind me of the lackeys of Sonic Underground. Not to put the fear into people.
I like. What makes you say that? Because these things don't make me want to throw up when I look at them, and I'm pretty sure that one of them isn't going to be able to change into these hideous, malformed chairs and motorcycles and stuff.
Look, all I'm saying is that I demand a song in every comic book.
I mean, okay,
that's going to work well in text.
I mean, they could just include a little speaker and little.
Well, you actually get the song itself if you get the digital comic, because that's where they make their big profits.
Right.
So, while we're not too far away from the Diamond Select stuff, now First Four Figures has actually revealed concept art for a metal Sonic statue. Which apparently means that last Sonic statue that was like $430, if I remember correctly, didn't sell too badly because apparently they were on the verge of canceling the whole line.
Hasn't there already been a Metal Sonic statue by First Four Figures?
Oh well, I hope I didn't.
Yeah, now I remember quite clearly. His eyes lit up and everything.
Oh well,
glowing shoes.
Apparently, there's another one because there's an article for it on Sonic Stadium. So I get it's called a modern Metal Sonic concept. So I guess they're doing a second one now. And of course, I'm sure it'll be like $200 or something. So if you like those statues, you better start saving up.
And if you like tiny statues, so we got upcoming board game from Shinobi Games called Sonic the Hedgehog Battle Racers, which is currently on Kickstarter. And it's just like a miniatures board game, painted miniatures, where you use dice of the board game to race around the arena to get to a certain area.
Don't be spreading misinformation. This is not a roll and move game, Mr. I have no experience with tabletop games. Chris, please write all our interview questions.
I've had experience with tabletop games, but it's been like 20 years.
Chris, you're the expert here. Why don't you take this?
You're the one with the Pac-Man board game in the background that I see.
Freaking Milton Bradley from the 80s. That's not representative of modern board games.
I don't know.
But I do have Yokai Watch the Game of Life, which is very important for me to have.
I mean, of course you do. You also have Sonic Boom Monopoly, if I remember correctly.
I also have Scott Pilgrim and the Mega Man board game. And
a quick update: the Sonic the Hedgehog Battle Racers thing has $68,589 right now.
That is correct. So the idea, the whole premise of the game is it's built around having a thing of cards. The cards give you different actions between running and jumping. Running has different effects on different terrain. You definitely want to avoid running into walls or running into badniks. You do want to run into rings, however. Jumping lets you destroy badniks, lets you scale over things with different altitudes. Your ultimate goal being to be the first person across with the most rings and the most badniks defeated. Comes with 5 characters in the main box: Sonic, Tails, Eggman, Amy, and Knuckles. And Each one is designed to play a little bit differently with different abilities that activate at different times, just to help give you a little bit of an edge. Eggman himself can actually be played as a, not computer controlled, but controlled through an automated deck system, so that if you want to play everyone versus Eggman, with Eggman just being kind of a automated control character as a villain, you can do so. The big appeal of potentially getting it through the Kickstarter itself would be Supersonic is a Kickstarter exclusive. Certain other elements will also be Kickstarter exclusives depending on if they reach certain stretch goals, such as plastic rings instead of cardboard ring tokens, a special box design to hit it. But thus far, they're really only about $2,000 away from the Blaze the Cat upgrade for the stretch goals. They have unlocked Shadow. Shadow will be included with the Kickstarter. They also have things that they're working towards, such as SBO, Styx, Silver, and for additional costs, or if you get the Super Deluxe $150 box of the Kickstarter, they're going to throw in Metal Sonic, Infinite, Vector, Gamma, and Big. The other thing worth noting is the instruction booklet that they've released does make reference to other characters, such as the Full Chaotix, the Babylon Rogues, Rouge, further characters like that they haven't actually announced as part of any part of the Kickstarter itself. Obviously, take anything I've said with some grain of salt, if only because I have invested in this Kickstarter myself. I did put in for the full $150. My assessment of it is it looks interesting. I am interested in seeing how they kind of handle the terrain and altitude elements of the gameplay. I am happy that is more card-based instead of what Jason attempted to describe a roll and move, because roll and move games like not Candyland technically, but those child games aren't really what the current tabletop industry is about. This is a company that has published games in the past. They do have some experience working with brands. They've released a Tokyo Ghoul card game, and they've released several books in a My Little Pony RPG series, a little bit like D&D, but with that brand attached to it. So it looks like it would probably be fairly legit, if so long as the funding goes through without issue. There is still a question of how far it will get in relation to its stretch goals, which are fairly significant. It seems to come with a lot of miniatures. If you want a lot of Badnik miniatures, this is a way to get them.
Although they aren't really all that although they don't really look all that good, honestly.
Which ones? The Badniks?
The Badniks. The figurines for the characters look great. I'm just not willing to buy a whole board game for them.
Sure.
Badniks, no. They're just.
I guess
I'm not a big fan of the color.
Well, they can't paint every miniature.
I know.
Then the base game would be $150.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that, but just I don't really. Nothing about this game really attracts me.
You don't play tabletop games, though.
I do not, and like even if I wanted to start, if I tried to get Corey to play this game, if I tried to get my roommate to play this game, he would probably not want to.
But yeah, I
don't think I'd be able to get anyone else to do a Sonic board game.
I'm personally very interested in myself. Like I said, I have some skepticisms about it, particularly in the way that I'm trying to picture myself thinking about what the strategies of this game would be, and I am a little bit concerned that randomness might be more of an issue than I would necessarily like, but again, I can't really speak to that without the thing in front of me to really give the assessment. At the very least, I can tell you a lot of Kickstarters in this day and age do give you the option to purchase the game before and if it gets a more widespread release. If you continue to follow the Kickstarter page after it has completed. The other aspect of this I would say to keep an eye out on is because this is a significant license and because Shinobi 7's other games have made it to more widespread stores. I know my local game shop actually did get copies of their My Little Pony RPG book in.
Didn't know that existed.
This might be something worth keeping an eye out if you are very reticent to actually participating in a Kickstarter. The only difference would be you wouldn't get Supersonic and you wouldn't get plastic rings and you wouldn't get the big fancy box. But if that doesn't matter to you and you just want a Sonic board game, that might be a better option.
I'd be genuinely surprised if this didn't pop up in stores after all this.
It would suit it would suit the gravity of the license itself.
Alrighty. That said, there's another. We're talking about board games with miniatures. There's another little miniature coming out with classic Sonic appearing in Totaku, a gaming figure series being put out by Sony, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Totakus, amiibos, but they
don't do anything.
But they get rid of that whole nonsense about being mildly interactive with video games.
They're just figurines. I can't necessarily fault Sony for releasing this set of figurines, but at the same time, I also don't necessarily think they would have done it without the release of Amiibo.
Right.
If I had the room for them, I would probably be interested in this. But as it stands,
I mean, they probably have the question.
Pretty happy.
They probably question like how many people use the Amiibos for their function versus just having a nice figurine on their shelves.
I mean, I do, but
you want to know what I've used Amiibos for in like the last 3 months? Ernie, Halos, and Bayonetta too. That's it. Like, I guess use these things to farm Halos in that game, and that is it. And if I couldn't have done that, I wouldn't really care. I basically just have my Amiibos for display because I really like the characters that they from Smash Brothers.
Now, it is worth mentioning that these are slightly cheaper than Amiibo because of it. Like each of these figures are currently listed on GameStop at about $10 each. There are some of these that I would legitimately be interested in. They have Crash Bandicoot, they have Sonic, they have Sackboy, they have Parappa.
A 2D Parappa, which I'm very interested in.
Ooh, like Mr. Game & Watch.
Yep. They have, for whatever reason, they have the main character of Ni no Kuni 2, even though that game hasn't actually hit the US already. But it seems kind of weird to me that because this is a Sony-led initiative, that they have reached out to a lot of other companies, because you have characters on here that are like, here's the main character of Bloodborne. Here is Heihachi. Here is one of the characters from Ni no Kuni. It just kind of, it does give you a sense of, we just don't have the characters ourselves to really push this entirely. Either that, or it's just a goodwill reach out to other companies.
Here's how I see it, because this is basically also what Sony did with their Smash Brothers like game. Like Sony just, I may be speaking sacrilege to Sony fanboys. I'm sorry, but I don't really think they have the IPs with the popularity and the history.
It's not that I don't.
I think they have I think they do have a bigger IP than say Xbox does right now, or Microsoft.
Oh yeah, Xbox is basically like Halo and Gears of War.
Halo and Gears of War. That's it. Nintendo is the big one.
Not gonna bother with this, but
and Sony's in the middle. But I think Sony's got some decent.
Sony, a lot of their most popular IPs, that are character driven, didn't really come about until the PlayStation 3. Like there are a couple from the PS2, like God of War, Ratchet and Clank. But for the most part, like they rely pretty heavily on third party characters and titles to sell their consoles until the PS3 came around and didn't dominate like its predecessors did.
I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, but I will at least say the stable of characters that they have just don't have the design resonance that a Nintendo stable of characters has. And I think that kind of just plays to the way that their fan bases have evolved. Like, if you're a Sony fan, or if you own a Sony console, most of the games that you own probably won't be Sony games. If you are a Nintendo fan and a Nintendo owner, for many of the Nintendo consoles, most of the games, or at least most of the most significant games that you would own, would be Nintendo-published titles that focus on Nintendo characters, and Nintendo puts a lot of stock into their characters.
And then there were like the occasional Nintendo-themed third-party game, like that Pac-Man. Like I think Pac-Man Versus had some Nintendo influence in it, if I remember correctly.
Now,
Pac-Man Versus was only on the GameCube, and it had Mario's voice as the announcer.
All that said, I would really, really like Microsoft to come out with a line of figures that also has Sonic. Because what I would love to have is a Nintendo-published Sonic figure, a Sony-published Sonic figure, and a Microsoft-published Sonic figure.
Microsoft would have to go with like the Sonic Adventure character design from like Sonic Adventure, the original Sonic Adventure or something.
Have it be entirely polygonal, even though that doesn't apply to their branding at all whatsoever.
Oh, okay. I guess like Sonic Jam, then that can work, or Sonic R. But Yuji Naka, the renowned star of Sega Hard Girls, is also is now joining Square Enix, presumably to do more voice work and also to make some games.
so that they can anthropomorphize all of the Square Enix characters in anime girl fashion.
Yeah, like
they go on adventures. They have an adventure with low polygon Tomb Raider, Lara Croft or something.
But there is going to be a Lara Croft in the style of a Barbie doll. Not Lara Croft Barbie, but Lara Croft in the style of a Barbie doll.
I'm genuinely interested in what Yuji Naka is going to be coming up with Square Enix, because you know what? Like, he has continued ever since he's left Sega. He's continued to make at least interesting games. Like
I will definitely say that.
Like the original, like Rodea for the Wii, not the Wii U. That was a piece of crap game. But Rodea Sky Soldier for the Wii was a really entertaining and unique flight action game that utilized the Wii controller in a rather unique way. And
yeah, I mean, if they use him to get some more action games on the system, some stuff that's more colorful, I'd be all for that.
Of course, I'm a little worried that he may not, that like he'll mostly be working on mobile titles or games as service titles, because apparently that's where Square Enix is going right now.
And he does have experience with that, so.
Well, that is true.
Possible.
I think it is at least worth mentioning that they've really, I mean, as far as that kind of stuff goes, Square Enix is kind of one of the best developers at that right now as it is, so it would not surprise me if they would like him for mobile purposes, because they do put a lot of effort into their mobile titles.
Honestly, the only one I've heard about is this Final Fantasy game where all you do is tap the screen. So I'm glad to hear it's not just that anymore.
No, they make. First off, I don't know which one you're talking about, but there's at least three pretty sizable Final Fantasy games that I can think of that have been released to mobile. One of which is a mobile scaled version of Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Has anyone here played it? Like, is it genuinely like a remake of the game or what?
No, but I am fascinated by it.
So what? It's its own original game then?
That's my understanding. No, it follows the story and the cutscenes of it, but they've replaced the gameplay to something that's a little bit more mobile friendly and piecemealed the chapters into packs to purchase. I think the whole thing would cost about $20 to $25.
The game I was referring to was Final Fantasy All the Bravest, but apparently that came out in 2013. So they had plenty of time to improve, I guess.
All right, and in other news, Sonic Forces has apparently performed, according to the Sega's recent financial report, has performed strongly in Japan and in the West.
That's not really surprising.
Yeah, it doesn't really say anything about Sonic Mania as far as its digital sales and how strongly those were. I think it's just mainly focused on the physical copies. I
mean, the report doesn't specify where the sales came from. Doesn't even specify the region. It just says it performed strongly, which presumably means, at least on an international level, it has sold well. Which, as far as Sonic games go, is basically what you would expect. Because even the bad Sonic games have typically sold decently.
It's still a brand that holds cachet, and it typically sells to a demographic that is not as discerning.
Yeah, but I'm actually surprised it's selling well in Japan, because Japan's not that big on Sonic anymore.
Well, I haven't heard about it selling well in Japan specifically. So it could just be that their expectations for Japan were really low.
The other thing to keep in mind about this game specifically is
maybe the Hooters campaign worked.
See, I know what they were doing.
This is probably the first time in a long time that they've actually been able to. This might actually be the first time they've been able to release a full 3D Sonic game on 4 platforms at once. They couldn't really even do that with Generations, because they had to create a 3DS version because the Wii. Because we
couldn't handle it.
I imagine that was a big part of it.
Even back in the day, Sonic Heroes, that didn't get. Neither did Shadow. And of course, the Wii couldn't handle that really crappy Sonic 06 game. So, I guess the engine that they made was versatile enough to work on both modern consoles and the Switch's Tegra chip.
Which I hear the Nintendo Switch was the highest selling version, but that's not unofficial, because that's data coming off of VG charts, and they're not too reliable at all.
But that's also pretty historically accurate as well.
Yeah,
they've always done the best with Nintendo, because that's the place where their prime demographic tends to be.
I think the sole exception was like Sonic Heroes on the PS2, but beyond that, the Nintendo consoles has always been the bread and butter of Sonic.
Sorry, I was off of Twitch for a while. I wasn't expecting that little image in the corner.
I mean, ultimately, it makes me worried that this type of thing still sells well. I am still really hoping they take away a lot of great lessons from the success of Sonic Mania. The fact that both do all... I worry that the lesson will be we can make two different types of games for two different types of people and have that be okay, rather than we need to make the good game that people want that actually sells. There's a dangerous crossroads here of what they could learn versus what they will learn.
Certainly, I do hope that with the next 3D Sonic game, they realize what they did wrong with Sonic Forces and get back on track finally with something more along the lines of Generations and Colors. It's surprising, really, the downgrade in the quality of the levels compared to previous Sonic games.
Yeah, we've talked about this at length. It's just it's not Sonic Generations 2. It's a step backwards from Generations.
I think ultimately
in a way that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense.
I think ultimately what they're going to see is that the Sonic Mania performed strongly for a longer period of time on the Switch eShop than Forces did. So at least in America, I'm sure that Mania performed better, and so hopefully they'll look at that and say, hey, here's this game that did better with critics, that had better level design, that was cheaper to make, and it sold much better. Of course, alternatively, they could just say, see, we need to sell our Sonic games at $20.
Yeah, just sell them for $40 and make them cheap, use the similar assets. And
that's the only reason why Mania
completely screw up the engine somehow.
Like I said, we're at a crossroads of a lot of lessons they could be learning. Let's hope they pick the right ones.
I just hope we get a Sonic Mania 2 announcement at SSXW, which... Should we go into that now?
That would be perfect segue. Yes.
So SSXW, Sega is doing another panel there this year. They're going to be talking about the future of the Sonic brand. Apparently, they're going to have some announcements. I'm personally not expecting much, given the year 2017 was. But if there's any kind of game they could have ready to at least announce in March, I think it would probably be Sonic Mania, even if it's an early 2019 title. So I guess we'll see.
Well, with those Sonic racing rumors,
Oh yeah, we should discuss that too. So, Jason, do you want to take this?
Well, I mean, they've both at I think two different toy fairs have kind of sneaked out the rumor that there's a Sonic racing game in the works, and somebody on the Supersonic Stadium message boards, I believe that's usually a reliable source.
Yeah,
said that it's going to be not a Sonic and All Stars Racing transformed game, but just a Sonic racing game without the Sega All Stars.
Look, I love these games for their gameplay as much as the characters, but I would personally find that to be a bit of a downgrade. So if that's true, I will be sad that we won't be getting Alex Kidd and Nikes and Ryo Azuki anymore.
Now, this is something that Sega has, including Aaron Weber, has flatly denied that there's no racing game coming out. It's just that there have been reports on the contrary, but who knows? Rumors are rumors right now.
Yeah, and
it kind of lines up with where Sumo Digital probably is as a company right now, because they're starting. I don't think Crackdown 3 releases this year, as far as we know. Correct?
Yeah, I think so. Delayed again.
So by this point, obviously they're still all hands on deck for that. But if they are starting to wind down, there is a good chance that they have another team that is starting to look at the potential for a Sonic racing game. Or it could be a whole different team. I certainly I would prefer it to be Sumo Digital, because Sumo Digital makes real good racing games.
Oh yeah,
but
as much as I love Mario Kart 8, Sonic Racing Transformed is still my favorite go-kart racer.
Yeah, they're still a fairly significantly sized studio. I would not be surprised if they aren't tackling more than one project at a time. They were working on Crackdown 3 the same time that they did release Snake Pass, so it's certainly possible that they could be adapting from an existing engine and putting in new characters and new tracks and just having those two projects go concurrently.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Snake Pass, from what I understand, is just a very small project for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that, one, it still has the transformed gimmick, and two, I hope they have some really obscure characters in there.
I just hope it's good. Like that.
Oh yeah, and
that's the most I am looking for.
And I also want it to be on the Nintendo Switch, please.
They can't not put it on the Switch like that. There is no way. It may have been a bad mistake for them to have made that agreement for the Wii U exclusivity, but they still need to make sure that they are on a Nintendo platform, because that's where they get a lot of their sales. And now that the 3DS is being shoved aside and the Switch is so unbelievably popular with people who are actually willing to really be enthused about buying games for it, they've got to get it on there.
And not to mention, the Switch has been able to handle ports of games like Rocket League, so it's not like it's impossible with the right technology.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably move on to Pac-Man and him joining.
So Pac-Man is kind of interesting here. I'm just gonna show this on the screen. This is kind of interesting.
So yeah, they released a trailer a little bit earlier that is some sort of cross-promotional agreement that now you can unlock Pac-Man in the Sonic Dash mobile game, and as Jason was showing you, you can play as Sonic in the Pac-Man mobile game.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, so that just showed. You can play Sonic in Pac-Man. It's an 8-bit Sonic, and he's being chased by little different colored Motobugs.
Oh, and is he like
through a maze? And he's collecting rings, and instead of the power pellets, you have the boxes of invincibility, and then they turn the Motobugs blue.
So no eating chili dogs, huh?
No, it's a Reese's peanut butter thing here. You got your Pac-Man and your Sonic. You got your Sonic and your Pac-Man. All mixed together.
I hope it's good. I have to try that game out now.
I've played the mobile Pac-Man game. It's a solid port of Pac-Man.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, they changed up every once in a while with different mazes, promotional mazes, that kind of stuff. You get a couple of plays a day and buy.
Yeah, it's a free. They turned it into a free-to-play model. You can have to earn to get up to a certain, mazes to purchase, and you get to purchase more little game mazes and what have you with that.
And then Sonic Dash is still Sonic Dash. It still has the same model as it ever had.
Yeah, you're playing as Pac-Man, and you have to spin dash Pac-Man through ghosts. So there's, instead of having what's his name, the one Zaz or whatever his name is, he's replaced with a ghost monster.
The I am not a Koopaling character.
Oh man, Zaz! Yeah. I forgot how old Sonic Dash was. I can't believe they're still supporting that game.
No,
it sells well.
Yeah, it's one of their first ones, and it was the most significant one, and it's certainly the most mainstream of playstyles.
I got sworn to what had they released some sequels for it or something, or themed it around other games?
They released the Sonic Boom Sonic Dash 2, and I mean it's still out there. You can still play it if you want. It's just that I'm guessing
nobody cared.
Yeah, which is the story of Sonic Boom.
Yeah, that poor cartoon show. It's probably one of the better Sonic cartoons made, and no one cares about it because of that crappy game.
It's a great cartoon. It's just everything surrounding the cartoon is not even B quality.
Aside from the comics, I think the comics were solid.
Comics were fine.
And they didn't even last a year, sadly.
Yeah, they didn't last a year.
Nobody cared.
Yeah. Anyway, in our final little bit of news,
oh god,
Sonic the Hedgehog the movie has finally gotten I'm not gonna say street date. That's what they use for video game. But a release
release
date for
date.
the movie on November 15th, 2019.
So we know
Subject to change at any time.
So we know the date that all of us Sonic fans have to start just, hiding in our homes and holding our heads down and just trying not to
build a little shanty town out of mattresses as far away from the internet and theaters as humanly possible. I try to be an optimism about this
kidnap
stuff.
a child and bring her with me. She just wants to see this. I just have to come with her. So sorry.
Thankfully, I don't have anyone to take. I'm sure Corey won't want to go. I know no one else is going to make me go. So no, you guys are going to make me go from afar. Watch it for this goddamn podcast. God damn it, I forgot about that. I'm
not gonna make you do anything that you don't want to do except fix your dang recording equipment. That's the only place where I care.
I tried, goddammit. Now, I did do some research on the creators, and apparently, they ditched the original writers for this thing last year, and now the people who are writing it are the same people who wrote this thing called Golan the Insatiable for Fox's ADHD. Has anyone ever seen this?
No, I am lost on modern Fox, so...
Well, it got 2 seasons, so there's that, but they've done a bunch of tiny projects, and this was the only one I've actually heard.
There's still always the slight hope. We have the director from Deadpool, which is nothing.
He's the executive producer, though.
Oh, I thought he was the director.
No, he's not directing it.
I thought he was the director.
No, he's the executive producer. They made a big deal out of him being the executive producer. And
well, that could mean a million different things.
Yeah, he may have creative control, which is possible. Producers can do that, or he may just be financing the movie. That's also possible. I don't even remember who the director is, but I believe I looked up his filmography. This is his first major directing project.
That may be true. I thought he was co-director is what I've read, but whatever.
The bright side of this is that we don't seem to have the Smurf people working on this anymore. At least
that's good.
At least I didn't find any Smurf people when I was looking up all the different creators.
The other part I have a hard time kind of grappling around is... My understanding is this is now Paramount.
Yeah.
Where initially it was going to be Sony.
I didn't know.
Okay,
what animation studio does Paramount go through?
Oh, I think that the animation studio is. I think this is Xmarza Studios. And Blur Studio, which I think that's Blur Studio I think is from the writers or something, and there's our original film and Paramount Animation. This thing has 6 production companies.
So instead of Blue Sky, it's basically an animation company. Nobody's really. Wait a minute, they're not doing animation in this. Is this still live action?
This is live action and animation. Marza Animation.
Yeah, this is basically going to be... I hate to make the comparison, but this is basically going to be the same double, as far as we know, as Smurfs or as the Smurfs movies or the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, a combination. But at the same time, a lot of the superhero movies we enjoy right now are basically the combination of live action and CG animation, Deadpool included.
But here's the difference.
There is
no cartoon Hedgehog.
Yes.
The closest thing we come is Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy as far as
and he still looks like an actual raccoon.
Yeah, he does look like a photorealistic raccoon.
Like I said, I'm trying to be optimistic about this. It's really hard. I don't feel good about dropping the hammer until I can actually see what it looks like, and I think we absolutely need to see it this year.
So I've got the director's IMDb.
So I may judge it.
The director is Jeff Fowler, and before this, his one directing credit is Go for Broke.
Which is an animated short.
It's an animated short from 2004.
So, yeah.
That's all he has attached to him in terms of direction.
It is what it is. So, like I said, we have almost nothing to go on at this point, except Sony didn't like what was going on with it, so now there's a new studio.
Oh, great.
New staff.
So the company that
this is how much confidence they have in a studio and its team completely ditched it and gave it to another studio, and now they're looking at it.
Which look, that it's not an innately good or bad thing. There have been
that defines this whole movie.
There have been movies in the past that go through clearly known development issues that turn out really good, that go through change in staff that turn out really good.
Like Deadpool?
There are others that do the same and turn out pretty bad. I think it's just I'm not optimistic about it, but at the same time I don't want to be damning about this idea because we don't know.
Will say this.
We have literally nothing to go on because we don't know what it looks like. We barely know the people that are involved with it, and we don't know the direction that they are going to go with it. Other than that, it will be a combination of CG and live action.
Well, a couple of things. They did say a while ago that they're going to PG-13, and
G-13. Sonic.
That's the one.
But now that may have changed because I think that was years ago.
Well,
but the one good thing about the creative team here is that they've barely done anything. They may very well turn out to be very talented people. But I'm not holding my breath.
Like I said, we don't know. We literally do not know. So yeah,
I should watch Go for Broke.
We spent the last 10 minutes talking about nothing.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I mean, in fairness, we don't really know anything.
All right, exactly.
Really? I did not know we didn't know anything. That's why I shouted it 50 times.
Okay, I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening or watching if you got this on YouTube or Switch.
On your Switch. I'm so glad that they can watch this on their Switch.
Twitch.
On Twitch.
Okay, that's better.
I got Switch on the brain, I guess. Thank you so much, GX, for showing up today.
No problem. You know I'm good for it.
And thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
I feel like I'm on the Brady Bunch. Anyway, and that's going to do it for us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace.
See ya.